Hello and welcome back to Layla's Writing Lab. My name is Layla. Hello and welcome back to Layla's Writing Lab. My name is Layla. In this video we're going to be looking at how to write for an IELTS Writing Task 2, which is also known as the essay question. We're going to look specifically at writing for an opinion essay, and in this video we'll be looking at the introduction. The following videos will be body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2 and conclusion. Let's take a look at the question for this post. The most effective way to learn English is to live in an English-speaking country. To what extent do you agree? Before we start looking at how to write the introduction, let's take a look at the question itself. The most effective way. IELTS is talking about a way or a method of doing something. The most effective way. To learn English, so the best method to do what? To learn English is, and then IELTS is giving a solution or a suggestion, is to live in an English-speaking country. So the best way to learn English is, this is the solution, to live in an English-speaking country. This is according to IELTS. To what extent do you agree? To what extent, it means do you agree or disagree, and how much? So now we understand what the question is saying and what the task is. In order to write an introduction, we need to have 3 sentences. The first sentence has to be to paraphrase the question, and that means to rewrite the question but using your own words. If you copy the same statement again, you will not get any marks. The second statement is the thesis statement, and this is your response, it's your answer. Do you agree or disagree, and how much? And the final sentence in the introduction is a synopsis. Some people call it an outline. And this is where you say what you're going to say. This is where you would introduce your main ideas to the examiner. Okay? So, to paraphrase, which is going to be your first statement, it's very good to target the verbs, nouns, and adjectives, adverbs in a sentence. Obviously, we can't change every single word of the sentence. These words, verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, are what give meaning to the sentence. This will allow your paraphrased sentence to be very specific and effective. Let's take a look at the question. The most effective way. I've got my adjective, noun. To learn English, I've got my verb, is to live in an, I've got live, my verb, English speaking country. So these are the words, as you can see, I have highlighted 5 parts of the sentence that I will target to use paraphrasing and to rewrite the question. So this is my sentence again. And this is how I have paraphrased this sentence. Let's take a look. The most effective way. Instead of saying most effective, I've got the adjective best. Instead of way, I've got method. Instead of learn, I've got the verb acquire, which is the same meaning. English is going to stay as English. We're not going to change that. Is to live. Now live is a verb, and here I've used that same verb again, but as you can see I have changed the form. I have accompanied the verb by a preposition, and when you have a preposition plus verb, your verb gets an ing. The examiner will see that and will know that I have changed live to by living. I will still get a mark. In an environment, so I've changed the word country to environment, whereby English is the spoken language. So I've done two things here. First of all, I've got a relative pronoun, which we didn't have before, and I have a relative pronoun because I have just talked about a location or place, environment. English is the spoken language. Instead of saying English speaking, I've firstly had a passive voice in the sentence, and secondly, I've moved these words around. Instead of English speaking, I've got English is the spoken language, and that is passive voice. And that's going to be my paraphrased version of the sentence. Next comes this thesis statement, and this is where we have to specifically give our answer. Do we agree or disagree? Now, in order to do this, I need to try to use a transition word, and that will allow your examiner to immediately locate or find your answer to the question. Okay. Examples of transition words for an opinion essay are in my opinion, I believe, to my way of thinking, from my point of view, or my thought on this matter is that. These are different ways of saying in my opinion. And for this post and video, I'm going to use this one. My thought on this matter is that. This is my thesis statement. My thought on this matter is that by living and coexisting with other native English speakers, one can fully engage in communication and therefore learn the language fluently and correctly. So this is my opinion on the statement itself. Let's take a closer look at what I've written and why. So first of all, we started with the transition words. My thought on this matter is that, and that's telling the examiner that I'm starting to give my opinion. So this is my thesis statement. Next, I've got living and coexisting. Now, we already had the verb live in the question, but I've added another word, and here I want to express to the examiner my range of vocabulary. Next, I've got native English speaker. Now, the question was talking about people living in an English-speaking country. Here, by using the adjective native, I want to show the examiner that I understand the meaning of the question. I understand that in an English-speaking country, the people who speak that language are native. Then I've used the word one. One is very academic. If you feel that your English is advanced enough, I definitely recommend you use this, and we use one instead of I. I can be quite informal sometimes. So if you want to write in a more academic way, especially for the IELTS, I suggest you use one. One is instead of I. Then I have fully engage, and here I've used an adverb plus verb structure. So here I'm showing the examiner my use of grammar. Fully engage, and by using engage, I'm obviously showing my range of vocabulary as well. What does it mean? One can fully engage in communication. That means I can completely take part in communication. I've got the word communication. I'm showing my understanding of the question because someone who lives in an English-speaking country has to be able to communicate and therefore learn the language fluently and correctly. I've used this to show the result of living in an English-speaking country. So these are the phrases and words that I've used in my thesis statement. My thought on this matter is that by living and coexisting with other native English speakers, one can fully engage in communication and therefore learn the language fluently and correctly. So basically, I'm saying yes, I agree with the statement that you need to live in an English-speaking country if you want to be able to communicate. Next comes our synopsis, and this is where we say what ideas will I mention in the essay? What will I be talking about in the body paragraphs? So instead of writing only about what we just talked about in the thesis statement, which is in an English speaking country you'll be able to engage completely, I want to talk about other things as well. However, other factors are just as important for learning English, such as willingness to socialize and learning the language wholeheartedly. So what is this? Here I have introduced the two main ideas that I'll be discussing in body paragraph 1, which is willingness to socialize, and body paragraph 2, learning the language wholeheartedly. So now the examiner has an idea of what the essay body will be about. Okay. I've used the phrase just as and adjective here. Other factors are just as important, and just as means as important as. You can have any adjective you want to in here. As slow as beautiful as important as. So when we say just as and the adjective, it's the same as structure that we can use with an adjective. Also, if you use what we've talked about in this video for your paraphrase, your thesis statement and your synopsis, you would get a band score 9 for logical organization and for your academic achievement. Okay? So our complete introduction is this. The best method to acquire English is by living in an environment whereby English is the spoken language. My thought on this matter is that by living and coexisting with other native English speakers, one can fully engage in communication and therefore learn the language fluently and correctly. However, other factors are just as important, such as willingness to socialize and learning the language wholeheartedly. Willingness to socialize means how much I am willing and able and want to socialize. How much you socialize helps you in learning the language fluently. So I'll be talking about that in body paragraph 1. And another factor that's important in learning English is learning the language wholeheartedly, really wanting to learn because you want to, not because you have to. Okay? And so here I have a complete version of the paraphrase of the question, the thesis statement, and my synopsis all here. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you.